Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. As peak hurricane season nears, IRS reminds people to prepare for natural disasters. IR 2020-189, August 24, 2020, Washington. The Internal Revenue Service reminds people to create or maintain an emergency preparedness plan. A well-thought-out plan is a critical component for surviving natural disasters. Taxpayers, whether individuals, organizations, or businesses, should take time now to create or update their emergency plans. A solid plan includes securing and duplicating essential documents, creating lists of property, and knowing where to find information once a disaster has occurred. So you want to be prepared before, obviously, the disaster happens. Makes it a lot easier, more likely to get through the disaster without or lessen of the problems as you do so. So secure key documents and make copies. Taxpayers should place original documents such as tax returns, birth certificates, deeds, titles, and insurance policies inside waterproof containers in secure space. Duplicates of these documents should be kept with a trusted person outside the area of the taxpayer. Scanning them for backup storage on electronic media such as flash drives is another option that provides security and portability. So obviously those key documents, you want to make sure that you have those in a secure place. If your natural disaster typically has to do with water, then you want it to be in a secure place that won't be hit by water. And then obviously you can make copies of it in some way, shape, or form. You have the online copies now that can be useful to scan them. You have the added security problems of, saving them on a computer and having a copy on that format with that type of documentation. But those, of course, are the things that you want to consider as you go through your planning. So document valuables and equipment. Current photos or videos of a home or business's content can help support claims for insurance or tax benefits after a disaster. All property, especially expensive and high-value items, should be recorded. The IRS Disaster Loss Workbooks in Publication 584 can help individuals and businesses complete lists of belongings or business equipment. And this is going to be a useful thing to do. Obviously, if there's a disaster, then you're going to have to deal with insurance. It's a lot easier to deal with insurance if you have current videos and pictures and whatnot of your information of the things that you have of your home and the items, the assets within it. Employers should check fiduciary bonds. Employers who use payroll services providers should ask the provider if it has a fiduciary bond in place. The bond could protect employer in the event of default by the payroll service provider. The IRS reminds employers to carefully choose their payroll service providers. So I want to make sure that the payroll service provider there is going to be secure and that they're bonded, and that could help in case of a disaster with regards to payroll. And obviously, again, payroll is something that can be cause problems, so you want to make sure you do get someone that, if you're working with a third party with payroll, you have a reputable payroll firm that will be helping you out with it, because it can get kind of complicated once it gets messed up. It's a little confusing to unmess up, and you don't want to not be paying the withholdings that you took out of your employee checks or have any problems with that. So back to the text. Rebuilding documents. Reconstructing records after disasters may be required for tax purposes, getting federal assistance or insurance reimbursements. Those who have lost some or all of their records during a disaster can visit IRS's Reconstructing Records, there's a link to that here, webpage, as one of their first steps. So if you need to reconstruct something, you can start at the IRS. IRS has a lot of great things to help you because they got the transcripts that a lot of the W-2s got sent to the IRS and whatnot, so you can start to rebuild at least some of the information that would be on the tax return with the IRS. So that's a good place to go to start putting things back together as far as documentation goes. So IRS stands ready. Taxpayers who address of record is identified by the IRS as qualifying for disaster tax relief will automatically receive an extension to file and interest and payments relief for most tax returns, and there is no need to call the IRS to request this relief. The IRS lists the relief available and areas qualifying for relief on the Around the Nation website. There's a link to the Around the Nation website here. Taxpayers impacted by a disaster with tax-related questions can contact the IRS at 866-562-5227 to speak with an IRS specialist trained to handle disaster-related issues. A taxpayer impacted by a disaster outside of the federally declared disaster area, there's a link to that here, may qualify for disaster relief. This includes taxpayers who are not physically located in a disaster area, but whose records necessary to meet a filing or payment deadline postponed during the relief period are in a covered disaster area. Taxpayers located outside of a federally declared disaster area must self-identify to receive relief by calling 866-562-5227. Find complete disaster assistance and emergency relief details. There's a link to that here for both individuals and businesses on irs.gov. There's also some related links that you can look into here. There'll be a link to this in the description.